and gentlemen, this time we're going to begin the funeral services of Regina Meerbaum. For those of you who are here, please take a moment to be sure that your cell phones have been turned off. And we welcome those of you who are joining us online, especially Regina's brother from Israel is watching online, and we extend our condolences to him. At this time, I ask Harold, her son, to please rise. You can stand next to your father, Amelia. We're going to perform the ancient ceremony of Kriya and begin the funeral service. And Rabbi Moshe Reitman from Or Simcha will be officiating.
We're going to begin with the Kriya. Similarly, those who are sitting Shiva in Eretz Yisrael, if you haven't performed the Kriya yet, you should do so.
Dayan Ha'emes. Amen.
On behalf of Harold, Chaim Meerbaum, and his daughter Amelia, I'd like to thank everyone for coming and participating in the funeral of his dear mother, Rachel Bas Avraham. I'd like to ask everyone to turn to the pamphlet, and we're going to say together Psalm 23. First in English, followed by Hebrew. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Psalm 23 in Hebrew. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai Roi Lo Yachzor. Dinoi Stesha Yarbitzeni, Almei Menuches Inahaleni. Nafshi Yeshevev Yancheni, B'maglei Tzedek Leman Shemoi. Gam Ki Elech B'geitz Hamovas, Lo Irara Ki Ata Imodi. Shiftecha Mishantecha Heima Yenachamuni, Harei Chofanei Shulchan Neged Tzairerei. Yishantov Hashem and Reishi Kaisi Revayah, Achtoi V'chesed Yirufuni Kol Yemei Chayoi. V'shafti b'veis Adonai l'eirech Yomim. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we're going to lower our casket.
Whilst they are lowering the casket, we will recite the Eshes Chayil, the woman of valor in English, because Regina Meerbaum was a true Eshet Chayil, a wife to Alex Meerbaum, and also to the entire family. A gallant woman who can find far beyond pearls is her worth. Her husband's heartfelt trust is in her, and he shall lack for nothing. She bestows good upon him and never harm all the days of her life. She seeks out wool and linen, and her hands work willingly. She She's like a merchant fleet bringing her sustenance from afar. She arises while it is yet night and gives provision to her household and direction to her maidens. She envisions a field and acquires it. From the fruit of her handiwork she plants a vineyard. With vigor she girds her loins and strengthens her arms. She discerns that her enterprise is good. Her lamp does not go out by night. Her hand she stretches out to the distaff, and her palms support the spindle. She spreads out her palm to the poor, and extends her hands to the destitute. She fears not snow for her household, for her entire household is clothed with scarlet wool. Fine covers she made herself, linen and purple wool are her clothing. Prominent in the gates is her husband, as he sits with the elders of the land. She makes a cloak and sells it, and deals a belt to the peddler. Strength and splendor are her raiment. She cheerfully awaits the last day. Her mouth is opened with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She oversees the ways of her household and partakes not of the bread of laziness. Her children arise and praise her husband, and he lauds her. Many daughters have accomplished well, but you surpass them all. Rabot, Banot, Asu Chayo, Va'atalit al Kulana. Grace is false and beauty is vain. A woman in awe of God, she should be praised. Give her the fruits of her hand, and let her deeds praise her in the gathering place. Today we are gathered to celebrate the life of Regina Meerbaum, ni Pacht, Rachel Bas Avram, beloved wife of the late Alex Meerbaum, loving mother of Harold Chaim, proud grandmother of Amelia Rose Meerbaum, dear sister of Shlomo and sister-in-law of Dina Pacht, and a sister to the late Devorah, and her husband, the late Moshe Pollack. Regina Meerbaum was 96 years old, lived a full life. She was born in Vizhnitz, Romania, which became Ukraine. And she married Alex Meerbaum, who was from Chernovitz. They married in 1945 in Târgu Mureș in Romania. She was an Ashes Chayil who stood by her husband, and in Romania she was known to always reach out to others, as we just read in the Ashes Chayil, providing those with food that didn't have, clothing that didn't have before the war. They moved to Eretz Yisrael, where Chaim was born. And at that time, they owned a chocolate factory, which you may have heard of, Shufra, famous Shufra chocolates, which for reasons we're still trying to find out, they sold the business. But they thought, in the interests of their son Chaim, it was better to migrate to the United States of America, where he would have a future, build a family, which they did. They came to Chicago and for 3 years they lived in West Rogers Park. In fact, the parents attended B'nai Ruvain every single Shabbat or whenever they needed to go to shul. After 3 years in West Rogers Park, they decided to move from a unit, and they would move to a house in Morton Grove. Once they moved in Morton Grove, they joined the closest synagogue at that time, which was known as the Northwest Suburban Jewish Congregation. And they used to attend services every single Shabbat. And Chaim fondly remembers the Shabbat Friday night meals that they used to have, and also seeing that her mother, who was a very righteous person, made an effort every week to light Shabbat candles. Once her husband Alex retired, he was around 60 years old, they decided they're going to open up the Morton Grove Gourmet Sweets, leaning on their expertise that they gained in the chocolate factory, Shofar in Eretz Yisrael. And they also were a factory for other stores for 20 years. They produced chocolates and sold to other facilities. When I came across Regina Meerbaum, which was only a few years ago, one thing that stands out is that she was always davening, and she was always saying Tehillim. She was always talking about her relationship with Amelia, how she cherished the fact that she was able to live to see Amelia grow up. In fact, in the early years, together with her husband, they used to go every single day to babysit Amelia. Rain, hail, or shine, or sun. They used to travel from Morton Grove downtown in order to be close to Amelia. We know that when someone passes away on Shabbat, the Talmud tells us that that person is considered a tzaddik, and she truly was a tzaddikus, a very righteous person. And I was thinking to myself, what really is the connection to the parsha that we read, that we did read on Shabbat, Parshat Devarim, to Rachel bat Avraham? We're told that this is the 5th story book in the Torah, and Moshe Rabbeinu is reflecting on the journeys that the Jewish people took from Eretz Yisrael, from Egypt, going to receive the Torah and to settle in the land of Eretz Yisrael. We also read in the Haftorah, which is connected, Chazon Yeshayahu, the vision of Yeshayahu, where we know all the trials and tribulations that the Jews went through, but ultimately we will come to the rebuilding of the 3rd Beit HaMikdash. And that was life. Life wasn't always easy for the Meerbaums. However, whatever they did was to ensure that the blessings would come down through their prayers, through their efforts. I like to dwell on numerical values of the Hebrew words. And if we look at the Parshat Devarim, it starts off Ve'ela hadvarim, and these are the words that Moshe spoke. We have to ask ourselves, why do we say, and these are the words? What's the and? Moshe Rabbeinu is starting to review. What words was he talking about? He was talking about life in the past. So when I look at these words, if you take the numerical value of Eila is 36. Regina was 96. The first letter is Vav, is a 6. And at the top of a Vav, if you'll see the way the Vav is written in the Torah, we call it a Kutzai Shel Yud. Looks like a little Yud. So a Yud is 10. So if we take the 36 and we add 6 for the Vav times 10, 60, we get to 96. Ve'ela hadvarim, these are the words. 96 years of saying Tehillim, the words of Tehillim that your mother always used to say. She used to, I believe, have a German Siddur and a German Tehillim, and they used to have Siddurim for the women, for the men, but she always used to keep that close to her. And these are the words, the Tehillim, the words of Tehillim that are going to accompany her in her ascent. May we merit that very soon, with the coming of Mashiach and the rebuilding of the third Beis Hamikdash, even before Tisha B'Av, that we will once again be reunited with those that have departed. I'd like to ask Chaim to come up if you'd like to share a few words, and then we will continue with the service.
There's a lot that I could say about my mom. There's not enough time to say everything. But if I was to sum up in a few words what my mom was about, I would say that her life's mission and purpose was giving. She always felt uncomfortable to receive anything, no matter what somebody wanted to give her, a simple thing or something of value. She felt uncomfortable. All she wanted to do was give to others, help others. She had compassion, sensitivity for others, whether it was giving food, whether it was giving of her time, whether it was a kind word or lending an ear to somebody who needed something or was in a bad situation. Really, that's all she wanted to do, and that's what gave her peace and gladness and joy. Like Rabbi Reitman alluded to, like before the war, life was very good at that time. My father told me that was probably the best time of his life. He was in charge of the largest food co-op in Europe. He was running the whole business. There was a president of the company, and the president of the company told him, "I don't really know how to run this business." He says, "You know what you're doing." He says, "I'm just a figurehead. I have to sign the papers. You tell me what to do, and I trust you 100%. I sign whatever you want me to sign. I sign it, and you go make it happen." So he did things too. He would drive food trucks. He would have truck drivers driving food trucks to poor people in the middle of the night to deliver food who didn't have food. And he set up little kiosks on the street corners for people who didn't have parnasa or could make a living, to help them make a living overnight. And he had close relations with the mayor of the city, so he was able to, the mayor said, "Don't worry, you don't have to, no bureaucracy, just do whatever you have to do to help these people, and I trust you, everything's okay." So my mom was also that kind of a person. She always wanted to help everybody in whatever capacity she could. That's what I would say is the main, sums up everything about my mom.
This time, we're going to place some oath over here. For those of you who feel strong enough, please come forward. We're going to try to do as much as we can before we ask the gentleman to close the grave. Then we'll continue with the memorial prayer Kaddish and the Shirah.
You're getting younger, so you're getting less understanding. I understand. Actually, I have to tell you something else.
It's pretty warm outside. You're gonna walk around
Doing it.
water. Sure, you take care of yourself.
No, it depends upon the strength of the shoveler. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you. No, I don't know.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I could ask everyone to gather back underneath the canopy as the gentleman from the cemetery close the grave, and we'll continue with the final prayers.
Yeah, you know, my grandfather was raised in Pacht. I was there also.
It's very comforting.
Come on. We will now continue with the Kamale Rachamim. Those who wish to rise may rise. Kamale Rachamim. Menucha nechayna al kanfei ashechi. As nishmas roko bas Avraham sheholcha lehailama bavu shanachnu mispalalim biad haskaras nishmasa begane yeden tehei menucha vasa lochein bal harachamim yastireha B'seis knof of loilamim v'yitzrachoi b'tzerachayim es nishmasa Adinoi hu nachalasa v'sanuach b'shalom al mishkava v'noi amar Amen. Now going to continue with the Tziduk Hadin, acceptance of judgment. Chaim. Let me say this together. Sase uskusana kakase akshiva se tsarim khodorahom atsukom rachamim no buzno alo savanim kuha aden hasleves rachamim tzadikato adin Elohim sarviyos asher yanta pi kein kol ruches kolin lo khazukhen englen kais ina rachamim ole ino kukhais aden rachamim hasleves adam im yashana yishanim yifem isandai Barakayna, Ms. Mamus, Haya Barakov, Ms. Dinner, Shaitan Haka, Bain, Mishalim, Adam, Hosbrain, Dinner, Haka, Lishman, Doya, Tano, Yadano, Adonai, Shaka, Tizak, Raka, Siska, Shaka, Bain Lahar, Aka, Midash of the Tzadik, Atlo, Adonai, Yosha, Mishpata.
We're going to do Kaddish. Please rise.
Yiskadal v'yiskada shemei rabo. Yolma divra chirusei v'yamlich malchusei. Yolma dehu asid. Yolma dehu asid li'is chadata ul'ach ya'a mesaya u'shchach lila heil hechle u'mifrak chaya u'mivnei karta Yerushalem u'me'akar pulchana nuchra'a me'ar'ei vil'asava pulchana kadisha ishmaya lasrei v'zivei v'karei u'shchintei v'yatzmach porkanei v'karei v'shichei. Amen. V'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chay d'chol beis Yisrael b'golav v'zman kori v'yimru Amen. Yesh lo shmei rabba Shmei rabba m'vorch olam olmei olmaya Yisborech v'yishtabach v'yispoer v'yisromam v'yisnasei v'yisador v'yisaleh v'yisalol shmei d'kudisha b'richu le'elo mikol birchoso v'shiroso tushbechoso v'nechemaso damiron b'yolma v'yimru Amen. Yehei shlomo rabba min shomaya v'chaim tovim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the services here at the cemetery. Shiva will be at the Chabad Free of Niles. The address is on the service folder. Please look at the Shiva Times, memorial contributions to congregation or Simcha. That information is on the service folder. For those of you who are watching via live stream, all that information is on the website. At this point, we're going to turn off the live stream and we're going to set up the Shirah. So if I can ask everyone just to come over here where Shalom is, and we'll form the Shirah, and Rabbi Raymond will continue with the traditional prayers of Hamakom Yinachem.